Hey guys, it's Shadowswarm here, and I've got the League of Legends patch 4.1 notes for the upcoming season. But before we talk about the patch notes, I want to talk about something else League related, and also WoW related. Many of you may know that I played WoW for like 9+ years, so yeah, I've got a lot of time invested in WoW. And one person that was lead designer over at Blizzard is now with Riot. Yes, Ghostcrawler is actually with Riot now. For those of you who don't know who Ghostcrawler is, his name is Greg Street. You've probably, if you've watched any BlizzCon event, he was, white guy, very, very, very short hair, pretty much bald, but shaved head, and yeah, he's one of the guys that looked at all the classes in WoW, was like, okay, how can we actually make them more in line with each other, both PvP-wise and PvE-wise, versus other players and, in dungeons. Because he would look at him and be like, okay, look, warriors are so broken right now in raiding content, but they're fine in PvP. How do we fix their damage to be more in line with other people, so it's not just like, oh, everybody wants warriors, because that's bad. So hopefully he can do the same thing with, with League, and make it to where, in my opinion at least, and my hopes, that he actually makes it to where, bans and picks in both ranked play and tournament play, isn't more of, okay, these champions are just too ridiculous, so we have to ban them, or these champions are so good we have to pick them. It's more of a case of, okay, all the champions are very, very good at what they do, but for what we're trying to do, what fits better. And hopefully he can help Riot do that. So, on to the patch notes. We got changes to the leagues, vision code changes, champion changes, minor changes and bug fixes to champions, item changes, different map changes, and new player experiences. So, just a quick little blurb right here from Riot Poof. If I probably mispronounced his name, but I don't care. I'm excited. Hey Summoners, Riot Poof here with the first update of 2014. Since this is the beginning of the new year, we're rolling over our patch numbering from 3.x to 4.x. Aside from getting that +1, our general design philosophy for the new season isn't changing. We're still closely watching the state of the game as it evolves with the preseason, and this update is just another step down that path. The general theme of patch 4.1 is more refinement and tuning. We're in the process of defogging more of those outliers like Shyvana, Riven, and Annie. That said, now that the dust has settled, we can also take a look at modernizing certain items such as the spirit line of jungle items, for example, and systems such as the 2v1 lane swaps that we would see pros do a lot, where you send your ADC and your support, instead of bottom, you send them top to deal, go 2v1 versus the enemy's top. A quick note, any text in red will be myself guiding you through some of our changes and our thought processes behind them. On with the patch notes. So for leagues, the 2014 ranked season reset will take place in the next few days. We'll have a full list of changes in the patch notes when it happens. Vision code changes. While these changes won't be immediately noticeable at first, you should see some positive differences over time, with vision becoming more dynamic and responsive. These changes let us do more with vision while tracking larger issues in 2014. No promises for now as to what timelines we'll be hitting. With our updates, but hopefully you'll be able to see the differences. In-game vision should now be more responsive and dynamic as it interacts with abilities such as Lux's Lucent Singularity. Ward sweeping abilities will now cause wards to darken the fog of war when they are disabled. And projectiles should register more quickly when a champion casts an ability from the fog of war. Meaning, something like Ezreal's Q should register faster for you to see before, they did a change with that already, but this is just if he's in the brush, hopefully the second it leaves that brush, like it's out of that brush, just that little tiny hair, then you'll be able to see it instead of, it's finally out of the brush, by a good second. So hopefully that fix helps. Anivia, or champion changes rather, for Anivia. We've increased the speed of Anivia's basic attack projectile and brought down the mana cost of Flash, Frost, and Crystallized. Additionally, Anivia's ult will now have a warning effect when she is almost out of range of Glacial Storm's range. We call these changes quote-unquote modernization, where we bring champions up to date with the current state of the game. Usually this means mana cost changes, which are typically reductions as we've seen, but it also extends to playability improvements like range indicators or gameplay improvements. So for Anivia, basic attack projectile speed increased to 1400 from 1100. Her Q, which is Flash Frost, mana cost reduced to 80, 90, 100, 110, 120 from 80, 100, 120, 140, 160. Her W, which is Crystallized, mana cost reduced to 70 at all ranks from 70, 90, 100, 130, 150. Or 110, 130, 150. And her R, Glacial Storm, now displays a warning particle over Anivia that only the Anivia player can see when she is close to the maximum range of her ultimate. So much like Orianna's Ball, it's the same concept. You get that warning of, hey, you're just about to be out of range where it's going to, shut off. So that's good. Annie. Pyromania's stun duration is now shorter at early levels, but Summon Tiber's cooldown has been reduced at later levels to compensate. Annie's a terrifying kid to play against in the early phases of the game, even before Tibbers joins the party, mostly due to her long duration stun at level 1. With these changes, we want to give Annie's lane opponents some more room to breathe against her early level threats, but we're giving Tibbers even more late game play time to compensate. This should lessen a bit of Annie's power without incinerating her overall strengths. Ha! I see what they did there. Incinerate. Because she's a pyromaniac. Okay, moving on. Passive, Pyromania. Stun duration now scales 1.25, 1.5, 1.75 seconds at levels 1, 6, and 11 from 1.75 seconds at all levels. So, much like your ultimate, it scales depending on your level. Okay, that's fine. And R Summon Tibbers cooldown reduced to 120, 180 seconds from just 120 at all ranks. So, damn, that's going to be more Tibbers. And that's, even furthered with cooldown reduction. Moving on though, Evelynn. We've slowed down Hate Spike's missile speed, changed Ravage's damage from magical to physical, and Agony's Embrace now grants its shield instantly. Evelynn's newfound strength in the preseason is partially a result of our changes to the vision system, but she's also been blowing up enemy champions during the mid-game where she can stack magic penetration. Changing Ravage's damage to physical will reduce some of Evelynn's burst, but our core focus is on the Hate Spike change. By reducing its missile speed, Evelynn's victims should feel more rewarding for keeping her at a distance, especially if they have some speed boosts to outrange her spikes. We've also cleaned up the response time of Agony's Embrace. I mean, let's be honest, it does feel pretty bad for Evelynn to die before the shield, but after the cast. So, yeah. Her Q, Hate Spike, missile speed reduction to 1250 from 2000. Let's be honest, it was kind of fast, so that's a good change. E, Ravage, damage changed to physical damage from magical. And Agony's Embrace now grants the shield instantly instead of a half second later after the projectiles return to her. So, yeah, that good changes right there. Good changes. Janna. Summary. Monsoon now channels immediately on activation, and the channel duration has been reduced. Additionally, we're increasing Monsoon's heal per second and total heal amount. So, since we removed a lot of Janna's invincible power, we can now buff up some of the cooler parts of her kit. Since Monsoon is one of Janna's big moments in the spotlight, we decided to throw caution to the wind and buff her up with more healing potential and immediate gains. I see what they did. The puns are just flowing. Her R, Monsoon, now begins channeling immediately upon activation from an initial 0.25 second cast time. Total channel duration reduced to 3 seconds from 4. Heal per second increased to 100, 150, 200 plus 0.6 AP from 70, 100, or 110, 150 plus 0.35 AP. Total heal amount increased to 300, 450, 600 plus 1.8 AP from 280, 440, 600. So early levels it heals more, last level heals the same. Okay, not bad. Not bad at all. Or roughly the same, at least. Jinx. Summary, we've lowered Jinx's base health but increased her health per level. We're also standardizing Flame Chomper's arm time, reducing its damage at early levels and fixing a slight bug. Whew. Sorry, haven't had a breath. Given all of Jinx's other core strengths, we're looking into reducing some of her early game laning power. Despite Flame Chompers taking a little longer to arm and doing less damage at early levels, Jinx can at least get excited about their increased reliability against champions who could use movement-based abilities to get over them, such as Vi or Lee Sin. General, her base health has been reduced to 462 from 500, but base health or health per level increased to 82 from 80, so might not sound like a lot, but every 5 levels that's an extra 10 health that you didn't have previously. So it does make up. And her E Flame Choppers, standardized arm times from 0.7 seconds or 2.7 seconds from anywhere between 0.5 seconds to 0.74 seconds. Fixed a bug that would cause Flame Choppers to sometimes not activate on champions dashing over them against such as Shen, Lee Sin, or Vi, and reduced damage at early levels to 80, 135, 190, 245, 300 from 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. Again, liking all these changes so far. Sounds like they're getting hints from Ghostcrawler already. Moving on. Nasus. Summary, we're reducing Wither's range and removing the increased Wither and Spirit Fire range generated through Fury of the Sands. We want to keep Nasus's core strengths where they are. We want to keep Nasus's core strengths where they are while toning down some of his power. Reducing the cast range of Wither and removing Wither's bonus cast range from Fury of the Sands means that Nasus must position better and make better decisions about which target to wither, rather than sniping fragile opponents with long-range withers before eating them. So wither range, his W, has been reduced, the cast range at least has been reduced to 600 from 700, and Fury of the Sands, his ultimate, no longer increases the cast range of Wither and Spirit Fire. Okay, that's fine. We've all been there before where Nasus gets that Wither from nowhere and we're just like, oh god, save me! So yeah. Rengar. Summary. We fixed a bunch of bugs in Savagery and tweaked empowered Battle Roar. Rengar's overall sustain with Empowered Battle Roar is incredibly high, especially because he can transition from a tank in the mid-game to an unseen predator in the late game. While this is definitely a nerf to Rengar's overall sustain, we wanted to maintain his ability to survive in a fight, so the scaling heal will remain a good choice when Rengar's low on health. The Savagery change means that Rengar now has 2 seconds to pull off his empowered basic attack instead of 6. So Q, Savagery. Savagery basic attack buff, not attack speed buff, reduced to 2 seconds from 6. And fixed multiple bugs that allowed Rengar to use Savagery more frequently than intended. And W Battle Roar, Empowered Battle Roar heal changed to 20 plus 10 times your level, amplified by a 1% per 1% of Rengar's missing health from 40 plus 20 times your current level and health. So, yeah. Means it's more in line with, like, I want to say Master Yi's Meditate. It's somewhere around there. It's similar now. Not as good, but still fairly good for Rengar. Riven. We've lowered Riven's basic attack damage, but increased her attack damage per level to compensate. Additionally, Broken Wings damage has been decreased, and Valor's shield duration was shortened. Riven's burst damage is just too high at early levels, so we're dulling her blade. Broken Wings scaling off total AD from bonus AD means that Riven will do better when she's behind, because she won't be able to buy so much raw AD, but worse when she's far ahead. We're reducing the duration of Valor to hit some of Riven's flexibility in lane. If she's going to rely on Valor's shield to trade damage, she'll need to commit quickly or risk losing the shield. So in general, her base damage has been reduced to 54 from 56.7, and attack damage per level increased to 3 from 2.7. Her Q, which is Broken Wings, damage per strike decreased to 10, 30, 50, 70, 90, plus 40, 45, 50, 55, 60% of your total AD from 30, 55, 80, 105, 130, plus 70% of your total AD. Or 70% of your bonus AD, rather. And E, Valor. Shield duration reduced to 1.5 seconds from 2.5 seconds. Okay, all those things I'm fine with. Sorry, the throat's still a little scratchy, but when I was doing the one for alls when they had that, one for all, Riven was kinda broken because you can't get through that shield in 2.5 seconds. So, yeah, glad they fixed that. And also glad they kind of nerfed her early game damage. Shyvana. Summary, we're lowering Burnout's overall damage and Flame Breath's damage at early levels. Dragon's Descent also received a bug fix, and the damage now matches the tooltip. Shyvana's doing a lot of damage in the early to mid game, even when she builds tanky. It turns out that Shyvana can push wave clear and out-trade opponents at all once. Things can get a little more frustrating. Things can get a little frustrating when all that's happening, which I've done. We're cooling some of that dragon down to make her early bullying more manageable. So W, which is her burnout, damage per second reduced to 20, 35, 50, 65, 80 from 25, 40, 55, 70, 85. Minimum magic damage reduced to 60, 105, 150, 195, 240 from 75, 120, 165, 210, 225, or 255. And maximum damage reduced to 140, 245, 350, 455, 560 from 175, 280, 385, 490, and 595. So, again, if you're relying on Burnout to just, kind of harass, another melee, an opposing melee, you can't really do that as much. It's still doable, but not as good as it used to be. E, Flame Breath, damage reduced at early levels to 60, 100, 140, 180, 220 from 80, 115, 150, 185, 220. So again, not a huge nerf at all. It's pretty decent, but not a huge one in the slightest. And R, Dragon's Descent, damage now correctly matches the tooltip, at 175, 300, 425 from 200, 300, 400. So, yeah. Moving on. Thresh. Summary. We made it more obvious that Dark Passage is a clickable item and gave it a small collision radius. We're also slightly increasing the time it takes for the box to form. Yeah, giving Thresh's Lantern a small collision radius means that he can't cover things like minions or wards to prevent enemies from clicking them. Similarly, this also means that minions can't accidentally cover up a lantern, and that enemies can't block Thresh's lantern with a bunch of wards. Instead, Thresh's lantern now slightly pushes units out of the way when it's thrown on top of them, or it can't be moved, i.e. wards or champions. Thresh's lantern will land beside them, and champions won't be able to walk directly on top of it. Click the lantern. So yeah, I'm gonna be first person to say this. I'm not the last either. So many people never use the lantern. Use the lantern. I'm done. Increasing the delay of the box wall formation is to clarify its use as a trapping ability when Thresh has the right opponent. Sometimes Thresh will just throw out the box when walking behind a fleeing opponent to quote-unquote clip them on the edge, but Thresh should fail in those situations because he didn't bother to have the proper positioning. So W Dark Passage now shows indicator particles to nearby allies to indicate that the object is that is a clickable object, and Lantern now has a small collision radius. And R, the box, delay on wall formation has been increased to 0.75 seconds from half a second. All these changes I'm liking so far. Yasuo. Summary. We've smoothed out Yasuo's gameplay overall and made Steel Tempest auto smartcast. Additionally, Last Breath now gives maximum flow when cast and has a slightly shortened animation. While we're still keeping an eye on how Yasuo is performing at all levels, we want to smooth out his gameplay and give Last Breath more use to turn around a fight when he's behind. So General now properly applies the 10% critical strike damage reduction to static shiv critical hits, and improved the functionality of his E sweeping blade to Q Steel Tempest combo. So Steel Tempest, all casts are now automatically smart cast. W, which is Windwall, no longer blocks friendly Syndra orbs. And R, Last Breath, now grants maximum flow on cast, spell animation shortened by 0.1 seconds, now less likely to be teleported out by enemies spamming flash, and now properly alerts spectators and allies when it's on cooldown. All those changes I like for Yasuo as well. I very much like them. Minor changes and bug fixes. For Caitlyn, Ace in the Hole. Fix a bug where Ace in the Hole's visual effect would continue even after the projectile was destroyed by its target becoming untargetable. Caitlyn players should now have a better visual feedback when their ultimate will not hit its target. That's good. For Darius, Noxian Guillotine, his ultimate. Duration after the kill... Duration after kill when Darius can recast Noxian Guillotine increased to 20 seconds from 12 seconds. So nice little buff for Darius. Fiddlesticks. This is a change we're planning to make with more testing, but it went out accidentally and we're reverting it now. Q Terrify. Fix the bug where Terrify would cause enemies to flee in a straight line rather than random directions. Fiora, her ultimate, Blade Waltz. Fix the bug where Fiora could teleport while fix a bug where Fiora could teleport while casting Blade Waltz. Okay, good bug fix. Good job, Riot. Hecarim, his W, Wall of Dread, or Spirit of Dread. A mountain heal is now correctly matched by the tooltip at 20% across all ranks, from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30%. So just a tooltip fix right there. Jarvan, his passive, Martial Cassidence. Fix a bug where Martial Cassidence would sometimes trigger on towers. So yeah, good fix. Lux, her ultimate, Final Spark, now goes on cooldown when it finishes casting instead of when it begins casting. okay, it doesn't have that long of cast time anyway. If Flux dies while casting Final Spark, it no longer goes on cooldown. Thank you! Malzahar, his ultimate, now halts the target's movement if they were being moved by a friendly effect, i.e. dashes, jumps, etc. Nami, her ultimate, Tidal Wave, now goes on cooldown when it finishes casting instead of when it begins casting, and if Nami dies while casting Tidal Wave, it no longer goes on cooldown. So that's good. That's good. Nidalee, her W, Bushwhack, fixed a bug where Nidalee's Bushwhack traps could be placed in walls. What? Okay, good bug fix. And fixed, or if Nidalee casts a trap that would fail or fall in a wall, the trap will be placed in the nearest non-wall position less than or equal to Bushwhack's maximum cast range of 900 units. Again, sorry guys, still a little sniffly. Olaf, his Q, Undertow, slow reduced to 29, 33, 37, 41, 45% from 35, 40, 45, 50, 55%. Talon, Cutthroat, or his E, Cutthroat, now teleports his talons slightly further behind his target. And last but not least, Twisted Fate, his Q, Wildcards, targeting indicator updated to show the individual target line or targeting line. So, okay, wasn't that hard to figure out before, but okay. Items: Rabadon's Death Cap tooltip now displays the amount of AP gained from its unique passive. In Spirit Visage or Visage, the cooldown reduction of Spirit Visage is to reduce its high gold efficiency for almost all tanky champions, especially since many were just buying Spirit Visage as part of their core tank build, regardless of the enemy champion or enemy team composition. So cooldown reduction has gone to 10% from 20. I'm guessing that's for the Kindle Gem. And Sunfire Cape. This change is to reduce the overwhelming power of early Sunfire Capes. Magic damage changed to 25 plus character level from 40. Meaning that, a level 13 Sunfire Cape isn't, as drastic as it was before, because it'll do 38 damage, but not 40, so, yeah. And that's still reduced by Magic Resist. Jungle items. We're really liking the spirit of the Spectral Wraith's healing passive, so we decided to make it a staple passive on every spirit item. Spirit Stone now gives 8% of damage dealt to monsters as health and mana, or health and 4% as mana. Or again, now gives 8% of the damage dealt as health and 4% as mana. Half effect for area effect spells. No longer has passive health or mana regen, and no longer has the passive Maim. Spirit of the Ancient Golem now gives that 8% magic dealt, or 8% damage dealt as health and 4% as mana, half for AoE, and that no longer has health or mana regen. Passive. Spirit of the Spectral Wraith. Damage, or now gives the same thing. Oh, and from 8% spell damage for both. Yeah, so now gives 8% of damage dealt as health and 4% as mana, half for area of effect spells from 8% of spell damage for both health and mana. No longer has health or mana regen, and now grants 2 AP for every large monster killed, a maximum of 30. And Spirit of the Elder Lizard now gives the same thing, 8% of the damage dealt as health, and 4% of that as mana. It no longer has passive mana or health regen. Summoner's Rift. Again, these changes are to Summoner's Rift only. With these changes, we want to tackle the 2v1 lane swaps that many competitive teams have adopted in order to shut down enemy laners while also taking quick objectives. Initiating a 2v1 lane swap to shut down an opponent should have inherent risks, like leaving your bottom tower vulnerable to early pushes. Turrets. Outer turrets no longer gain bonus armor and magic resist for the first 8 minutes of the game. And top and middle lane outer turrets now have a 20 damage reduction from champion basic attacks. So meaning, that's also on top of their armor, so yeah. Good luck pushing that very quickly without there being like 3 people plus in there. Crystal Scar and Twisted Tree Line. Since there's not much here, not even gonna go over it because, again, not many people really care. It's more about, you know, the competitive scene. So gonna skip Crystal Tree Line, Crystal Scar and Twisted Tree Line, as well as Crystal Scar and Howling Abyss, Crystal Scar, Howling Abyss, and Twisted Tree Line stuff. And last but not least, the new player experience. We've introduced a stable roster of free champions for new players to play. Our goal is to improve the way players learn to play League of Legends when they're first starting out. These champions were picked because of how easy they can be learned and how enjoyable most new players find them. These changes will be turned on at a later date. Players new to League of Legends will have a static roster of free champions to play during their first few levels, which they will use the normal free to play rotation. After their first few levels, they'll use the regular, free week rotation. But you know what? Since there's not many changes, I'll just go back. So, Crystal Scar and Twisted Tree Line. These changes are for these 2 maps only. Much like they removed the needlessly large rod from Twisted Tree Line and Crystal Scar due to its high cost in a faster game mode, we're doing the same thing with BF Sword while introducing items with alternative build paths. Lord Van Dam's Pillager has the exact same stat and total cost as an Infinity Edge, but it's easier to build over time. Blackfire Torch, movement speed reduced to 5% from 10%. Wicked Hat reintroduced with a new build and effect. Builds from a longsword and brawler's gloves. So total cost is 1200 with a 440 combined cost. Gives you 20 AD, 10% crit chance. Critical strikes cause your target to bleed for 60% of your bonus AD over 3 seconds, and its physical damage they bleed. Lord Van Dam's Pillager, reintroduced with a new build and effect. Builds from Wicked Hatchet, Pickaxe, Agility Cloak. Total cost is 3800 with a 995 combined cost. Stats and effects are identical to Infinity Edge. Infinity Edge has been removed. Crystal Scar and Howling Abyss. Entropy no longer builds out of BF Sword, now builds out of Pickaxe. Damage reduced to 55 from 70. Total combined cost reduced to 2700 from 3475. Combined cost reduced to 500 from 600. Crystal Scar and Howling Abyss, and as well as Twisted Tree Line. Again, these changes are only for Crystal Scar, Howling Abyss, and Twisted Tree Line. Grez's Spectral Lantern. Total cost reduced to 1350 from 1450. Combined cost reduced to 250 from 350. The Lightbringer. Total cost reduced to 2200 from 2500. Combined cost reduced to 375 from 575. And Hextech Sweeper. Total cost reduced to 2,000 from 2,200, and combined cost reduced to 3,300 or 330 rather. Wow, not 3,300. So 330 combined cost from 530. But yeah, guys, that's it. My name has been Shadowswolm. So if you guys are new players and you want to know what the free week champion rotation is every week without, having to guess and figure out how to play the champions, etc., go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And I make the free week champion rotation videos every week when they announce them. So as always, my name has been Shadowswolm. Don't forget to give the thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't, comment, all that funness, and I will talk to you all next time.